Hi, what's up? This is Lauren Branch. Today I'm here with JasiriX and Paradise Gray of X Clan. We're up here at WNAA, about to spit a little knowledge to us today. So I guess you can just start off, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Peace, y'all. I'm JasiriX, MC, activist, entrepreneur, originally from South Side of Chicago, Illinois, living and representing Pittsburgh.
Steelers all day, Steelers fan.
Black and yellow, you know what I mean? Shout out to where it's quote-unquote America's most livable city, but the poorest black community of any major city in the United States of America. And just somebody that, you know, as a rap artist, man, trying to use my talents and gifts to do more than just make music that makes money, but to make music to raise the consciousness of our people, because, I mean, we have a lot of issues and a lot of problems, and I think that at some point, you know, as hip-hop artists, you know, we need to address it or fall victim to it.
Peace, how you doing? My name is Paradise Gray. I'm originally born in Little Washington, North Carolina.
Yep, North Carolina stand up.
I became hip-hop by way of the Bronx, New York. Shout out to Africa Bambaataa and the Universal Zulu Nation. Peace to One Hood. You know, now living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know, vibing with the wonderful people there, trying to get justice for Jordan Miles.
Okay. My first question is for you, Paradise Gray. Okay, so tell me, how did you transition from, you know, being in a small town in North Carolina going to the Bronx, New York? I know that was a big cultural shock for you.
Actually, I was too little to remember at the time. You know, I was 4 years old when my family moved to New York, but I spent many summers back down home in Washington, North Carolina, and the summers were definitely a big culture shock, but I'm very thankful for the time that I spent with my family in North Carolina to help instill a lot of the values that my mother and father were grown up with. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We learned discipline for sure.
Yes, something we do.
How to grow our own food and live more naturally. And, you know, all these years later, you know, 40-something years later, you know, people are just starting to get back into the simple lifestyle that I was born into. So that makes it a little more easy for me now, you know, and, you know, to have that foundation.
That background.
Being born in North Carolina.
Okay, well, what was New York like during this time, or during the time that you moved up there, or maybe during your childhood?
Well, the Bronx in my childhood was... it actually was a wonderful place to go. I'm glad that I grew up there. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But our community was in shambles. You know, they had just built the Cross Bronx Expressway, and they displaced like 75% of the community to build this expressway so that the people that lived in the suburbs could get to Manhattan without going through our hoods anymore, you know, without having to worry about the stoplights and stuff. And it's pretty interesting. Anywhere, any big city you go to in America, if you want to find a historic black community, just look for the places where they have built highways.
So typically, that's where the hoods usually were.
Right through the hood with that.
Were you in one of those areas?
The South Bronx and the West Bronx, you know, High Bridge area. You know, our whole entire community was devastated by this. You know, it displaced many people that never got to return to their historic place where their family grew up at.
Okay. Well, my next question is for JasiriX. Being that you say you're from Philly, right?
Pittsburgh. The other side of the state.
Okay. Well, what was it like during that time? What was hip hop like during your, you know, teen years?
Oh, well, it was really, you know, it was the music of Paradise's group X Clan. It was just conscious hip hop was really, that's when it was at its height. Where even if you was like LL Cool J, you had to have at least one song where you said something about the community or Africa or something.
Illegal Search.
Right. So, and it was a beautiful time because it was like, the cool thing to be was like to have knowledge of self. So as somebody that at that time I had moved from the south side of Chicago to a suburbs outside of Pittsburgh called Monroeville. So I went to a community that was 100% black to one that was 95 to 97% white. So it was a time where I could have easily lost myself in the environment that I was in, but because of X Clan, because of KRS-One and Public Enemy, it instilled in me to want to read and learn about myself and set me on a path today where, you know, I have a consciousness and understanding higher than what I could get at a high school or college.
Well, if you would have stayed maybe in the area that you were, do you feel like maybe your music would have been different?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I moved from the south side of Chicago because I was in an area called the Wild Hundreds. And in that area, it wasn't really necessary. You didn't really have a choice as far as a young black man whether or not you were going to be a part of the gang. You was going to be a part of the gang regardless. I don't even know if I would still be here because of the path that I was on. But my mom, seeing this as a single mom, you know, she said she wanted, you know, me and my sister to have a better opportunity, so she just moved us out of that environment. And I think, to me, I feel like I got the best of both worlds in terms of, you know, I understand growing up in our community in extreme poverty, but also, you know, going to high school at one of the best high schools, and, you know, in a high school that's predominantly white, I got another understanding, and I feel like, you know, I put both that into the music.
Got a little of both sides.
Absolutely.
Did, you know, your new school, did it open up more opportunities than you think you may have got if you were still back where you were from?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely, like, I didn't have to worry about, you know, walking home from school. You know what I mean? When you grow up in an environment, even in you know, in wherever the inner city community is, and that's what I think a lot of times young black people are criticized, but people don't really analyze the situations that some of us come from.
I understand that.
It's like you might, I mean, just think about going to school, coming back from school, having to worry about maybe getting robbed, shot, jumped, or just seeing, you know, extreme violence, you know, drug deals, gangs, weed offered to you, crack, heroin. So I didn't have to worry about those things. Being in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, I could just concentrate on just going to school, being a student, you know, participating in sports, and, you know, I ended up, you know, doing real well in school, going to college. And I think those opportunities came from, you know, me being in that environment. So one of the things that we have to do, and this is why I think like hip hop is a product of our environment, but that doesn't mean that we can't work hard to make a better environment. Like, if we recognize that our environment is negative,
fix it,
and devastating to our community, right? We got to start making some change, or at least putting some thoughts out in the air that can change our environment for the sake of the future generations. You know what I mean? And it's funny because, you know, and I know that's kind of a long answer.
Oh, you're fine.
You know, you look at a lot of the hardest, most controversial, most gangsters rappers. As soon as they get money, they up and out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they living in very nice homes and nice communities because they want their children to have a better chance or a better opportunity. Well, then why do you continue then to perpetuate those same myths, those same lies, and that same lifestyle that led to, you know, whether you being incarcerated, your friends being killed, and now you don't even live there, and now your children don't have to suffer from the influence that happened to that. That's really, like, not fair.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest problems with, you know, our generation today is we don't really understand every little bit counts. Even though, you know, we might have these great problems in society, and we might be like, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I definitely think that's a big problem.
That's the biggest cop-out, right? I'm only one person. But, I mean, when you look at every movement, every great movement that's ever existed in the history of anybody's history started with one person. And so a lot of times, I mean, it's just whether you be that person. We say we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Okay, so let's speak a little bit about X-Clan. Tell me a little bit about the heart of X-Clan.
Okay, the original 4 members of the X-Clan. Well, I'll take it all the way back to the beginning. The original 2 members of the X-Clan was the grand verbalizer, Funkin' Lesson Brother Jay, and the rhythm provider, Sugar Shaft. I was running a club in New York called the Latin Quarter, and it was the incubator of the golden era of hip-hop. And Sugar Shaft used to come to the Latin Quarter with Chris Lighty and the Violators, who was a crew that had converged around cool DJ Red Alert. Yes. So they used to come to the club with Red Alert, and they would carry his records from the radio station to the LQ every Friday night. And one day I took the subway going back home to Brooklyn after the club, and Sugar Shaft was sitting right across from me, and we started having a conversation, and then when it got time for me to get off the train in Brooklyn, he got off the train at the same stop. I was like, where you going? He was like, I'm going home. I was like, where you live? Turns out he lived only 2 blocks away from me in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So
Oh, wow.
the next week, instead of him traveling independently, he stopped traveling to the club with the Violators, and he started rolling with me. And Brother Jay was one of his best friends from high school. At the time, Sugar Shaft and Brother Jay were probably 16 years old. But at this time, in the 80s in New York, you can hang at the club if you're young. You just can't drink. So me and Sugar Shaft became best friends, and he introduced me to Brother Jay, and I used to bring the two of them to the club. And then Professor X, the overseer, Booba Carson, he met me at the Latin Quarter also. And after the club closed, we started forming this group called the Black Watch Movement. And the Black Watch Movement was a conscious movement of young black people in New York that was a response to the murder of a young man named Yusef Hawkins and incidents that happened in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn and Crown Heights. There was a large riot, and a grandmother in the Bronx named Eleanor Bumpers was murdered by the police. So we decided that it was time to bring some youthful energy into the black nationalist movement. And Professor X's father was Sonny Carson, rest in peace, of Ubadinka. He was a very strong black leader in Brooklyn, and in New York he was one of the most feared black men in America. And we all came together to start taking it to the streets and letting the system know that we weren't just going to stand still while you kill our women and our children. So we wound up forming the X Clan so that we could be our own voice of our own movement, rather than letting other people who are not a part of the actual movement on the street just keep making rap songs about what we was doing for real. We figured if we were going to be the ones that put out the blood, sweat, and tears, we might as well put the science to the movement and let people know why we do what we do.
Okay. Well, being a part of, the Black Watch movement, as well as X Clan being Afrocentric, and also activist groups, what kind of problems did y'all face, especially when it came to hip hop? What kind of things did y'all go through?
We didn't really face no problems in hip hop. Didn't nobody want it with us, for real. Like I said, we were street dudes. And as far as Afrocentricity is for somebody that's not African. I can't be Afrocentric. I'm African. I am that I am. I don't have to act it. I don't have to read it. I just am that. When I wake up in the morning and when I take it to the grave, I'm going to take that with me, And it was wonderful to link up with Elder Abubadinka Sonny Carson and the Council of Elders that he prepared for us. Because I was one of the first dudes that was swagging out in hip hop. I was swagnificent.
Swagnificent.
Diamond rings on every finger, big giant chains, you know what I'm saying? Fashion clothes, fur coats, hazel contact lenses, and jerry curls. But inside I was the same dude, but I had to put on that costume because I was dark skinned, and in the entertainment business, you get treated different. So, I had to put a costume on to get acceptance. So it was good when I gained more knowledge of myself, and it was great for my self-esteem. And then I was able to really be who I was from the inside out, rather than representing a false image on the outside, but feeling some way on the inside. It brought having knowledge of self really brought clarity to me, and it made me accept me for me. And I began also to learn to accept other people in spite of our differences, and learn to accept other people in spite of their level of consciousness also, because everybody can't start out in college. You got to start some people at kindergarten, and we can't ridicule people who don't have that knowledge of self, because that's who we were too. We got to understand, we can't forget where we come from. You know what I'm saying? And we always must maintain a level of contact that's very strong with people who come from the tough inner city and the southern spots that maybe they don't have access to information, and maybe they don't have money, and they don't have things that they need, but they're not less because we're educated. They're not less because we have knowledge that they don't have. They're very important, and we have to always reach back and be there for them and help them through what they go through.
Yeah, I understand that. And I believe one of the biggest issues in hip hop today, just like you spoke about, people forgetting. I believe that, especially new generation, people think old school is old school, new school is new school. I think they're forgetting it all came from the same thing. Stuff you're doing now is the same thing they were doing then. And I believe that people forgetting that is one of the biggest problems. But for Jasir, I got a question for you. Tell me a little bit about your involvement, how you began in hip hop, how'd you know it was for you?
Wow. I became, just started, of course, as a fan of hip hop, and this being like the music of my youth. But one day, a friend of mine got some turntables for Christmas, and he said, "Write a rap," and I wrote it, and it was terrible. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, to me, it's like an instrument. You ain't gonna pick up a trumpet and sound like Dizzy Gillespie. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was like along the way, I just kept writing these raps, and even though they were bad, I got encouragement from the people around me, and so as I kept writing, I got better. And but at the same time, I went. It was kind of like I would write and go through the transition because I was influenced by what other hip hop artists was. So, when hip hop was on, the Chronic and all of that, I was smoking weed every day as well and writing kind of about that experience, and just to show you how influential hip hop, was and is. But, I reached a point in my life where I wanted more, you know what I'm saying, because of, me. I dropped out of college. I tried to, hang in the street and do that stuff, and it didn't work.
It wasn't for you. It's not for everybody.
Exactly. It's not for everybody. And I came into consciousness, I joined the Nation of Islam. And, so my ex is, I have a legitimate ex. I tell people I got my ex like Malcolm got his ex. I went through that process.
Yeah.
And, so then, of course, what I began to rap about changed, because just like Paradise had said, I had more knowledge and information that I had access to. And I always encourage, like, anybody that's an MC or aspire to be an MC to read, because the more words you know, the better your vocabulary is, the more you can describe a situation and be original. So that's kind of how I started in it.
Okay. I know that you say you're an activist first.
Right.
So do you feel like that's what influences your music? Like, what's your heart of your music?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, real issues. I mean, like, and it's funny because, like, how Paradise talks about out of the Black Watch movement comes S-Plan, and it's really out of this group that we started in Pittsburgh called One Hood to combat the violence. We started that first, and began. I became nationally known as an activist before
the music.
Rap. You know what I'm saying? People knew me as, that's JasiriX. He's part of One Hood, because of the success we had organizing in Pittsburgh, we started to organize nationally with Elder Harry Belafonte, who had kind of reached back and was mentoring young leaders, and we just happened to be some that were chosen. And so out of my concern and love for young people in Pittsburgh, when I saw what happened to the young people in Gina, Louisiana, I didn't see that as like, well, I'm not from there, so I really shouldn't speak about it. I saw them as like, yo, these are the young people just like the ones I work with every day. And so when I wrote the song Free to Gina 6, of course not thinking that it would be played all around the country and it would blow up like it did, because people thought I was from Louisiana. You know what I mean? So people was like, you're from Pittsburgh? I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, how were you writing a song about Gina? You're all the way in Pittsburgh, and people in Louisiana and artists from Louisiana wasn't making music to bring attention to that issue. And just like you said, it just comes from my heart and my love of our people, especially the youth, because I just don't want to see them, be dead or in jail, man. I really want to see them have their maximum potential. And a lot of the young people in our community, a lot of people are afraid of them, you know what I'm saying, especially in the inner city, you know what I'm saying. They got guns, they might look hard, but the reality is, man, so few people really go up to them, approach them and say, I love you, I care whether you live or die, I have opportunities for you. And that's what we started doing in Pittsburgh. And so that's the basis of almost everything I write, is really a defense of our community and our people, and it does come from that activism. Even if I'm defending President Obama, I look at him and say, well, that's, he's a member of my community too.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about your experience. I heard you talk about, the Gina 6, so tell me about that experience.
It was definitely like a whirlwind. I mean, I went from, I guess you would say, anonymity to when Michael Basin said JasiriX, And when he played the song for the first time on his radio show, it got so much of a response that he played it again. It was the first song he ever played on the show back to back. And so I went from, you know, people, and that, like I said, I was with MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace?
Way back in the day.
So people just blowing my MySpace page up, messages. I'm on radio shows. I'm in Gina. I'm meeting the Gina Six. I'm meeting their family, Michael Bell's father. I'm interviewed by Al Sharpton and Michael Bays. I'm at this rally. Wow. And so it's definitely a whirlwind experience. But then at the same time, you know, when the issue died down, so did kind of like, you know, people started to, you know, okay, not remember, I guess, so much me. And two, I also had labels contacting me, but they wanted to buy the song. And I felt, you know, when I put the song to Gina, I never sold that song. And people wanted to buy the ringtone, and they wanted, I mean, people offered me just straight cash for the song. But I felt like to profit from these young brothers' actual
that went through
misery was unethical. You know, people said, you know, told me, well, you could have used the money and gave it to their scholarship. I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking that I'm not going to profit off of somebody else's pain, that was the wrong thing to do. And so, but it was definitely, I think, preparatory for like where I am, because it showed me as an artist. That was really my reintroduction to rap. I had literally quit rapping because I felt like people did not want to hear
the truth
with a message. And so many 15, 16, 17-year-olds messaged me, inboxed me to tell me how powerful that song was, how much it influenced them, how it encouraged them to go to Gina, Louisiana. And it showed me like I was lied to. This industry lied to me when they said that this age demographic does not want to hear music with a message. They do. It's just that it's not that they don't want to hear it. It's that mainstream radio. That's
not what they're hearing.
They don't know about it. But usually when they find out about it, they embrace it.
Okay. Well, seeing that you saw the perspective of, you know, you could have got the money, gave it back, do you regret not selling the song now?
No, because I think that I think it was important for me, and it was important for people around me to see that I wasn't in this for a buck. You know, that this and so it was important for me because that's tempting to put a song out and charge money, and you know, I got bills and I got things too. But at the same time, to me, integrity and respect is something like once you sell those, you can't get it back. Like you can always get money. Money will come and go, and sometimes you'll have more of it than other times. But your integrity, your respect, and your reputation, once you sully that, you know, especially in our community, you know what I'm saying? Once people know like you snitched, it'll be 50 years from now. Remember,
still be talking about it.
Dude, yeah, that's a snitch right there. Wasn't that 1920? But he snitched though. He talked to So I mean, my thing was, it was just important for me that people know me and my reputation as JasiriX. Like, that dude is real, and he's not just rapping. And that's why I say I'm an activist first, because it's a lot of conscious rappers.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they just are conscious rappers, and they rap. I mean, and that's good. But I mean, I come from an activist first. So first, it's on the ground, activists being an organizer for our community and our people. I think on some level that is as important as rapping about it.
Okay.
If not more.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, Paradise, a question for you. Being that, you know, you were coming up in a time when hip hop was just, you know, getting started good. It was just getting popular. People was, you know, it was becoming mainstream. How do you feel now, you know, saying that people in our generation now are saying, you know, that's old, we're moving on? How do you feel about that?
I think that that's a narrow perspective. That I don't think that young people in general across the country or across the world have moved on from the original conscious messages of hip-hop, the peace, love, unity, and having fun that Africa Bambaataa laid down from the beginning. If the world is bigger than America. America is small compared to the rest of the world. And hip-hop continues to be what it was originally created for all over the world. Many places in Africa and South America and many other people are doing hip-hop the same way it was created. And there are many people here still in America that's doing it that way. My boy Wise Intelligent from the Poor Righteous Teachers, Brother Jay from X Clan continues on doing what he's doing. You have new people like Jay Electronica, who basically really is just poised to take over the industry. You have Lupe Fiasco, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You have a new young brother from New Orleans named D1, who is getting ready to take the country by storm. You know what I'm saying? And you have people who, you know, are still having fun with a non-violent message in hip-hop, like Wiz Khalifa, who is young and talented. And, you know, I like to say, like, when I was 21 years old, Wiz Khalifa's age, I had Jerry curls and hazel contact lenses and big gold chains and fur coats and diamond rings. You know what I'm saying? But my elders didn't ostracize me for that. They didn't talk about me funny, like do something about your hair and those eyes, take that fake stuff out. You know, they treated me with dignity and respect because they got to know me as a human being and they cared about me as a person. So rather than persecuting me for my shortcomings, what they did was they gave me what I was lacking, which was more knowledge of self, and they gave me an opportunity to grow. And that same way, I extend that same thing to young people who are in hip-hop now who may not have all the correct information that they need to make proper decisions in their life. And maybe that influences the way that they rap. But trust me, if we peel back the curtain on Oz and show them that there's people behind that curtain controlling that puppet, you gotta, you know, while I do give a lot of the blame of what's negative to Pinocchio, you really got to look at Geppetto too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what happens is we put so much emphasis on what's being said by young black people, but we don't look at the people who are profiting and sponsoring the negativity.
Buying it also.
And you understand that, wait a minute, this is America still, right? And in America, they know how to sell sex, drugs, and violence. And whenever something goes wrong, they revert back to that. It's in our cartoons, it's in our video games, it's in our workplace, it's on TV, magazine, books, everywhere. But when a black person says it, a young black person specifically, then all of a sudden it's not entertainment anymore, somehow more real.
Yeah.
Well, it's not more real. Hip-hop is entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even conscious hip-hop, if it's not entertaining, nobody's going to even get the message.
True.
You know, it's just like if you look at historically, if you look at James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. You know, would it had the impact that it has if it wasn't James Brown? You know, if you look at what Marvin Gaye was able to do with What's Going On. You know, Motown didn't want to put that album out. They were angry. They thought it was going to kill Marvin Gaye's career for him standing up and doing that. And if you look at elders in sports like Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the brothers who threw the hand up, you know, Carlos Rogers and them, when they threw the black fist up at the Olympics, they got their medals took. You know, it's dangerous for black people to be honest and stand up for our people. Why is that? We have to look at these things, and then we wonder why people like Jay-Z, 50, and Nas, I mean, excuse me, not Nas, Nas broke 50 with the consciousness, Jay-Z, 50, and Weezy, why they don't have more of a conscious message. Well, if they did, they would find themselves very lonely in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. You know, we gotta wrap it up. So just really quickly, can you just tell me, you know, being that you've been in hip hop so long, what do you think the problems are right now? How can we fix it? How can this generation help better hip hop?
I think that we need to lead better lives in our community and in our lives. What you hear in hip hop isn't coming out of thin air. They're making representations of the evil things and the crazy things that are going on in our community. You know, hip hop is not the big thing. The big thing is the black community and the culture that we live. If we change the culture that we live on the streets, we will change what people talk about and what people want to hear. Just like the experience that we had with the Black Watch Movement and X Clan, and just like the experience that we're having now with JasiriX and One Hood. You know, if we are able to change ourselves for real, then maybe we won't be so entertained by stories
Little
of negativity
things, yeah.
and stuff like that. You know, We're African people, and our music and our culture and our art was always created for a purpose. It was function over form. Art is just form over function. So if we danced or we sang, we did it to lift up our people and to praise God. And if we learn how to care about each other again, maybe our music will become more loving and caring along with it.
Okay. Well, guys, you heard it straight from the source. Once again, this was JasiriX and Paradise Gray. I think both of you guys, don't both of you have an album coming?
I have an album coming out actually in the fall called Ascension on the label that I'm on called Wandering Works Entertainment. Shout out to them. And then also, we're always dropping new videos and new media. If you go to youtube.com/JasiriX, which is JasiriX, or JasiriX.com, you can catch, the videos that we do, the media. We just did a series about, is Pittsburgh America's most livable city? And we dropping the video today about the other side, the real side of Pittsburgh. So, I guess if you saw Black and Yellow, this is the other side of the Pittsburgh that you might not have seen in that song. But shout out to Wiz. We got nothing but love for Wiz Khalifa.
Well, thank both of you guys for coming to the station today. I hope y'all check out their music. Check out the website. Make sure you can be an activist too. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be a big, top-notch person in the industry. You can be an activist right in your own town. This is Lauren Branch with WNAA 90.1. Have a good day.